Well, Jay, let's talk about one of the most famous horror films of all time, George Romero's 1978 film, Dawn of the Dead. And here is your ultimate edition, the collector's box set.
That's when the movie was still commercially available.
Yeah. And here we have one of our main spoilers. And here we have another main character. Oh, spoilers. Well, when you say Dawn of the Dead, a lot of people out there will probably think of the 2004 film.
The Zack Snyder film.
The Zack Snyder film. Zack Snyder's first and most competent film.
I was going to say, yeah, that's probably his best movie.
Well, I'm a fan of the 300.
Okay.
But after that...
It's all downhill.
But there was a film before 2004's Dawn of the Dead. It was in 1978. And it's George Romero's classic. Jay, tell us all about Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead is, there's a zombie apocalypse. A small group of people hole up in a mall. And that's the movie.
And this comes 10 years after the original classic horror film, Night of the Living Dead.
Yes, Night of the Living Dead, of course, 1968, shot in black and white, made by George Romero and a small group of people. Ended up kind of inventing what we now think of as zombies. Before that, there was like maybe some movies with voodoo zombies and stuff, but the idea of recently dead corpses coming back to life and have to shoot them in the head or set them on fire, it all came from George Romero. Which is kind of crazy to think that, like Bram Stoker's Dracula was, how long, when was Bram Stoker's Dracula written?
1895.
Long time ago.
Which is, of course, based on a real-life person.
Oh, Vlad the Impaler, right?
Vlad the Impaler, yeah.
But then, you have like that, and you have Frankenstein, all these classic monsters that have been around for, hundreds of years. And the last real monster that we think of as being like this mainstream monster is the zombie, and it wasn't that long ago that it was invented.
You're forgetting about the Swamp Thing.
Oh, Swamp Thing, of course, the most famous movie monster of all time. Isn't he a good guy, Swamp Thing?
Oh, I'm thinking of the creature from the Black Lagoon. Yeah,
That's a little bit different.
Swamp Thing is like a comic book character or something?
Yeah, the Wes Craven made into a movie.
Okay. So Dawn of the Dead is a radically different film than its 2004 counterpart.
Yes, that's putting it mildly.
Because it was made during the era of a filmmaker makes a film rather than a studio and a corporate panel makes a film.
Right. Yeah, this is a very independent movie, very low budget. George Romero. George Romero is one of my favorite filmmakers, more so because of his attitude and his style than the technical qualities of his movies, because his movies are very sloppy in a good way. They're very improvisational. He doesn't have any sort of his movies are sort of made in the editing. He just shoots lots of footage and makes it work in editing. And I think his editing is his strongest quality as a filmmaker.
Yeah, I think I'm not the biggest George Romero fan. You're a bigger fan of George Romero than I am, because I'm not a big horror guy. And I compared George Romero to the industrial filmmaker who made Zat. If you're not familiar with Zat, please check out our Zat episode.
We've been plugging that one a lot lately. I think we mentioned Zat on the last Best of the Worst, too.
Zat is one of the best bad movies ever made. If you have a chance, please see the unmatted version.
Oh, yes.
You can see Zat's white tennis shoes, not presented in the aspect ratio they wanted, which makes it even more hilarious. I think you see a boom mic a couple times, you see Zat's tennis shoes, and it makes it for a more pleasurable film experience. But the guy who made Zat was an industrial filmmaker in Florida, and then he's like, I'm going to make a horror film. Let's lock the camera down for 15 minutes while Zat walks through the street.
We have to establish this location, so let's just pan across the entire thing. Right. And it just goes on and on.
Yeah, so Dawn of the Dead, I mean, George Romero, after Night of the Living Dead, I guess he saw a shopping mall or went into a shopping mall and said, this would be a great place to hide during a zombie apocalypse. I want to make a movie about that.
And that was it?
And that was it. And he himself has said that the characters kind of take a back seat to the thrust of the story or the plot. And it's more like just a movie about 4 people that have to survive by living in a shopping mall during a zombie apocalypse.
They're still here.
They're after us. They know we're still in here.
They're after the place. They don't know why, they just remember. Remember that they want to be in here.
It's a very methodical movie. There's not some sort of overarching story. It's not a traditionally told narrative. It's just, here's the situation. Okay, we found this mall. What steps do we need to take to fortify this and make it livable? And then what do we do next? And it just tells that process.
Yeah, and then that's not to say that it's lacking all humanity or all substance in the characters. There are moments where they start to crack a little, they get in arguments. There's some emotional connection between 2 characters. We don't want to spoil too much.
Sure. Well, they're strong characters. We have our 4 characters who, unfortunately, the 3 male characters all have the most generic names possible. So even though I've seen this movie 278 times, I can never remember each of their names. Stephen, Roger, Peter, and Fran is the female.
Peter is Ken Foree.
Okay.
Stephen is the pilot.
He's Flyboy.
AKA
At least he has a
Flyboy.
nickname.
Yes, and then Roger is the other. Peter and Roger are both SWAT team members.
Yeah.
And we're introduced to them in the opening of the film when they're storming a government housing.
An inner city slum.
Yeah. Apparently the zombie outbreak has happened already. We get our first and last and greatest head explosion.
Yeah.
I've never seen Scanners, so I can't compare it to what is considered the best head explosion.
Every head explosion pales in comparison to Scanners. This is a pretty good one, though. On a scale of head explosions, it's up there.
Although they left in about 8 frames of their dummy head. I was scanning through the footage earlier.
You know what that head is? That's actually a cast that was done of Galen Ross, who plays Fran in the movie, because the original ending of the movie was going to be her shoving her head into the helicopter blades. So they just had this head of hers that they just painted brown and put like an afro wig on it.
They put a beard on it.
And they put a beard on it, and then they just blew it up. They filled it with like dog food and just random things that they had like in craft service, and then they just blew the thing up. And it's glorious. It was literally Tom Savini with a shotgun, and he just blasted the thing.
Nice. Nice.
You can get away with that kind of thing on an independent film when no one's breathing down your neck. And that's this whole movie. It's what can we do? What can we get away with?
Yeah, but it's like you said, it's not very cinematic. I think you referred to George Romero as a blue-collar filmmaker.
Yes, yeah.
He's not Mr. Fancy Pants. He's not Mr. Look at me, I'm the director. This is gonna be lit all dramatically. I'm gonna turn the camera and the music's gonna swell. It's more just like, here's a shot of what's happening.
Right.
Let's do that. And then
His movies
somebody
are more
else
about the ideas.
Put weird music in there that doesn't match. I don't care.
It's not that he doesn't care. It's that he creates it in the editing. He shoots tons of different angles. He gets whatever coverage he thinks he needs, and then makes it work in editing. And that's his style.
Yeah.
And that's the same. It goes with, like you mentioned, the lighting. Like the whole movie is just lit with like bright fluorescence because they didn't have time to do anything more, elaborate than that.
Yeah.
Especially when you're doing all these different setups and it's very improvisational. They're coming up with ideas while they're shooting. So it's like, well, okay, we just need it brightly lit so we can get everything.
But this one, I don't think he cared. I think it was more about the gags.
He cared more about conveying the theme and the gags, the gore effects, which were also, again, going with the sort of improvisational filmmaking idea. Most of those things weren't in the script. It was him turning to Tom Savini and saying, like, come up with ways to kill people. It's like, oh, we can do this, we can do this, we can do that. And a lot of them Some of them were planned ahead, and some were just thought up on the set, like on the day of.
Would you call this the throw everything at the wall and see what sticks approach?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, the movie is chaos. It portrays chaos, but the actual like filmmaking of the movie is almost as interesting as the movie itself, as far as just controlled chaos.
Yeah.
Which doesn't work for every movie, but it works especially for a story like this that works.
Right. There's no subtlety that needs to be conveyed. It's
Right.
all big picture stuff.
The remake's okay. I think the first 10 minutes is just about the best zombie apocalypse stuff that's ever been in a movie.
Yeah.
As far as capturing the chaos in a really big, elaborate, expensive way that obviously someone like George Romero couldn't do.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the movie is just okay. It's not bad.
Well,
It's more of an action movie.
Yeah, the difference between the two are one is very Hollywood and one is very low budget, independent.
It's about as far from Hollywood as you can get.
Yeah, because the 1978 Dawn of the Dead opens with Fran and Flyboy, mainly Fran, in a TV station. And it's just like, she's just sitting there in the sound booth, like kind of zoned out.
Yeah.
And that's our opening shot. And then it's like, okay, we're doing this live broadcast of these two people debating about what's going on.
We're just thrust into the chaos.
Yeah. We learn immediately that there's some kind of zombie outbreak, and they're just talking about it. And it just cuts to kind of the TV station decaying, breaking down. This person just walks off the set. Who's running the camera 3? I don't know.
They're swearing on the air. It's
A little
just madness.
cameo by George Romero in the control booth. Appropriate position for him as the director of the program. One of the biggest, most expensive things in the film that I believe a very large portion of the budget was spent on was the paper signs that they taped to the cameras that they printed out on someone's printer. I was always, even as a small child, very impressed with the level of quality that they went to disguise those cameras as a fictional television station. To contrast, the Zack Snyder one opens how a movie probably should open if you're doing it more by the numbers.
Right.
Which is, it opens up with Sarah Polley, who's a nurse at a hospital, and she's working a long shift, it's late, and there's some kind of thing happening, and you're not quite sure. So it's someone in their day-to-day life, and then it's like, someone's sick and someone has a bite wound on their arm. I gotta go home. She goes home and goes to sleep. Next morning she wakes up and the neighbor girl is in the house.
Oh, God. Oh, fuck. Call an ambulance.
That's kind of like you wanna use your first 10 minutes and you wanna introduce your characters and you wanna slowly introduce what's happening but without giving away too much. And the 10-page mark, boom, that's when you understand what's happening. Blah, 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 escalation, hit your mark. Zombies are everywhere. This one, the first word out of the first character's mouth, zombies are everywhere. No fucking around.
Yeah.
Flyboy comes in and says, we got to get out of here. I got the helicopter all fueled up. Fuck all these people.
Right. And you get to understand the characters because that's another thing in the Dawn of the Dead remake is that it's very like, it spells out who these people are, and they're very kind of superficial movie characters. These characters, I think the 4 lead actors, some of the supporting roles, the acting isn't the best, but the 4 main characters I think are all really strong. And you really understand them, and they don't have any sort of conventional arc, like a conventional movie arc. Fran has the most. She starts out kind of weak and submissive, and then she gets more aggressive and like, I want to learn to shoot the guns, I want to learn to fly the helicopter. But it doesn't follow. That's the biggest difference between the Dawn of the Dead remake and this is, one is a solid movie in a very conventional structure, and this movie is it has more personality because of how idiosyncratic and different it is.
It's a solid movie in an unconventional structure.
Sure.
So they're good examples of both. Yeah, there are a lot of good elements of the Dawn of the Dead remake. Like you said, Ty Burrell, I think when I look back in my brain, I saw it one time, and the things that stick out to me are Ty Burrell's annoying, even though I love him in Modern Family, one of my favorite television programs.
Oh, that's sarcasm. That is awesome.
Don't you laugh at that. That show's fucking brilliant.
Okay.
You guys, have a good one.
That show has more puns than I know what to do with.
Excuse me, when you two fellas are done blowing each other, maybe Davy Crockett can tell us the deal here.
It's a movie that's meant to appeal to everyone in the broadest way possible. And this movie is like, whoa, this music's weird. Like, what's going on? Like, there's lots of weird touches to it.
It's like someone in 1978 made it, who was smoking the grass.
Oh, you think so?
Possibly there was some grass smoking.
Okay.
I don't see Tom Savini as a man who would partake in the Mary Jane while painting some zombie makeup, man. But I could be wrong.
You never know.
We should also note that the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead remake takes place in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Yes, it's some sort of fantasy version of Milwaukee where when you go out over Lake Michigan, there's like tropical islands out there somewhere.
There's Lake Milwaukee, a gigantic island somewhere.
Somewhere.
Presumably in Lake Michigan.
Yeah.
That you can get to by boat and that you could live on. It has palm trees on it.
Yes.
Even though this is in a tropical climate, there are palm trees. But anyway, back to Dawn of the Dead. Yes. So we have 4 characters who feel like real people. They're very subdued. There's no wacky, obscene character traits.
Oh, that's sarcasm. That is awesome.
I think it's great because it's like we're stuck in the situation. What do we do? And everybody's just focused on dealing with that.
Yeah, but like Screenwriting 101 says, so-and-so needs to be concerned with their spouse. No concern at all. I mean, it's like they don't even mention significant others or family or just fuck it.
There's only 2 children in the whole movie, and they get gunned down by Ken Foree.
Oh, Ken Foree.
Immediately. He didn't even know they were zombies.
I was going to say, Rich. I felt like that was a very rich comment.
No.
And I was just about to go, Rich, but then I realized I was talking to you. But then when they get into the mall, we methodically watch them take all the steps necessary to secure the mall, which is the funnest part of the movie. But when they get into the mall, it's like, okay, it's overrun with zombies. What do? Well, we got to secure the entrances. We got to systematically clean them out.
For some reason, they decide to take all the zombies that they kill. There's lots of headshots in this movie, lots of glorious headshots, but they take all the zombies that they kill and put them in a freezer as opposed to just like going off on the roof and just throwing them off. I'm not sure why they put them in the freezer next to all that food that they could use. Now that food has been contaminated.
They do a lot of work. They shoot all the zombies. I'm not sure what order they come in, but they murder,
It's not murder if they're zombies.
Eliminate all the zombies from the inside of the mall, and then they have to secure the entrances. And for some reason, in the storage/office rooms, they have stockpiles of Spam.
Well, that's the Spam room.
Don't knock it. It's got its own key.
Spam.
Did you bring a can opener?
No, I guess I didn't.
Then don't knock it. It's got its own key.
My only thing that I always think of when I think of myself securing a location for a zombie outbreak is that you got to secure all the drinking water that you can.
Oh, yeah. That's something I wouldn't have even thought of. But
Yeah, my first order of business, other than food, I guess killing the zombies. Killing zombies comes first, Then finding every possible container in the entire building, whether it's just a bowl in the department store or a plastic container for something, fill them all up with running tap water before it gets shut off. That's number one. And then number two is stockpile all of your perishable foods. Make sure you eat those first. And then secondary would be your non-perishables, such as your cans, your ramen noodles, things of that nature. I would go in order. But water, number one priority.
That's not even mentioned in the movie.
It's not.
That's a misstep.
It really is.
This movie sucks now.
But let's talk about makeup. You mentioned headshots.
That's it.
I got a book when I was very little called Grand Illusions. I don't know how I ended up getting it. But it's just a book with all of the techniques he used for all the movies he had done up till that point. So there's a whole section on Dawn of the Dead. All the headshots are just, you take a quarter, tie it to a fishing line, put it on the actor's head, cover it with like wax or some sort of makeup appliance, and you just yank it off. So you get a perfect round hole. And then probably some sort of burst of, I don't know if they used an air compressor or what, but something behind the head to have the brains burst out. The simplest effects. And this isn't Tom Savini's best work, this movie. All them gray zombies, that sometimes they look green, sometimes they look blue. I think it's just, he didn't have much of a crew, so it's just, we gotta make up all these zombies, quick, just paint them gray and leave it at that.
Yeah, well, a lot of that goes to the either the film stock or the color timing or...
Because the blood, too, is it's almost like neon. It's very vibrant red, which actually makes it grosser in a weird way.
Yeah.
It's like sickly. It doesn't look realistic, but
It's
something
very-
about it looks gross.
It's very orange.
Yeah.
And Tom Savini actually didn't do the blood. I don't know if you know this.
They ordered the blood from the 3M company, he says in the commentary, and I don't know what that means. Like, did 3M just manufacture fake blood at some point?
No, see, I read that they actually had someone in the food industry do the blood. A Chef Boyardee.
Oh. I get it.
They went to the manufacturing plant and they said, how much can you filter out the O's in your SpaghettiOs and give us a couple gallons of this bright orange
Maybe they couldn't do
liquid?"
that, and they actually had someone on the set with like a strainer,
Yeah.
just dumping out all the. I don't know what they did with all the O's.
They donated them to charity.
Oh, okay. And it's funny because this is probably the most, like when you think of zombie movies, this is the one everybody thinks of. This is sort of the iconic zombie film, but it has like the lamest looking zombies in it. Night of the Living Dead, black and white. It's fine. They look like ghouls. You can't tell. Day of the Dead is, of course, Tom Savini's masterpiece. The zombies in that look amazing. The makeup effects are great. The gore is legitimately nauseating.
Day of the Dead is an amazing film as well.
Yeah. It's weird. Yeah, Day of the Dead is my personal favorite of the movies, but I think Dawn of the Dead is a better movie overall. It was a higher budget, so it actually has less of that sort of weird creative energy that I think something like Dawn of the Dead has.
Yeah, I'll
You had to make
agree
a
with
movie
you
in
there.
a more conventional setting.
If you're talking about the Dead trilogy, it's like each one has its own unique perspective.
Yeah.
Like the first one is very, very original. It takes place in the farmhouse. It's black and white, and that's the quintessential zombie movie that everyone thinks of is Night of the Living Dead, classic. Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead's the one everyone ripped off. But
Yes, that's true. Crazy 70s movie. There's a biker gang that throws pies at zombies and things get out of control. You could tell it's just a bunch of dudes having fun making a movie.
Yeah.
The third one is very dark. It's more disgusting.
we've reached a point where the only people left are all horrible assholes.
I'm running this monkey farm now, Frankenstein, and I want to know what the fuck you're doing with my time.
Like Jim said in our last Best of the Worst episode, watching this movie makes me feel like I have the flu. Watching Day of the Dead makes me feel like I'm covered in disgusting bugs.
It's a very bleak movie. Like, this is a more fun movie. Day of the Dead is a lot bleaker, which that's why I like it more, just because that seems more appropriate for the subject matter.
I like this because originally the original ending was not hopeful, and it's still, even though two of the main characters survive, it's still not hopeful.
Right.
But there is like, let's go on. There is something happening.
It's ambiguous in a way where it's like, well, maybe they could make it. Maybe they could survive somewhere.
We at least know that biker gangs are surviving out there, so other people probably are too.
Yeah.
In Day of the Dead, it's like they land in, I think, Miami in the beginning, or
Somewhere in Florida,
some
yeah.
city in Florida, some major city, and they're like, it's just desolate.
Yeah.
Everybody's dead.
Except for the crocodiles.
Except for the crocodiles. We got to go back to our underground bunker.
Yeah.
And scientists and the military are working together to find some kind of solution to the zombie problem, and everyone just goes nuts.
What the fuck is wrong with you people? They're dead! They're fucking dead, and you want to teach them tricks?
And then there's like underground caves where there's just hordes of zombies that they're using as like experiment material.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, I'd go nuts in that environment. And it's really like, it's claustrophobic, it's dirty, it's depressing.
It's the polar opposite of Dawn of the Dead. I can see why so many people hated it when it came out, because Dawn of the Dead, like, it's big, it's open, they're in this mall, we have the run of the whole mall, and there's sort of a fantasy element to it, like a wish fulfillment element.
Yeah.
If you take out the fact that zombies are eating everybody, but and then Day of the Dead is just like everybody's a miserable asshole, and we're stuck in this tiny, hopeless facility.
There's that wonderful little montage in Dawn of the Dead once they get control of the mall, where they're just having fun with all the stuff in the mall.
Yeah.
Like Fran's putting on makeup, they have a nice steak dinner, they're playing with all the clothes and toys and stuff, and then it's like, and now we're bored.
And then, well, that's the thing, is that's the whole deal with the movie is, we have, we're safe in here, but then what? Like, we've got this place to ourselves, we've got the zombies out, but there's nothing else to do, ever.
Just wait it out.
It's just sort of ignoring the overall problem.
What's your favorite scene from Dawn of the Dead, Jay?
I think my favorite scene is the opening that just sets up the entire tone of the movie. Them in the television station, just showing the chaos. Because once they get to the mall, it's mostly just the four of them for the whole thing. So it's nice to see at the beginning what's going on in the world before they kind of escape from it.
My favorite scene's when they throw pies in zombies' faces.
That's something you wouldn't see in a studio film. And this movie is so all over the place, where it's like, what can we do? Let's just do it. There's an interview with George Romero that I think it was in the AV Club, where they're talking about once the bikers show up and it's just like chaos, and they're running the bikes through the mall, and they were just filming this in the mall, just running these motorcycles through the mall. But one of them sticks his arm, while the zombies are attacking everyone, he sticks his arm in the blood pressure machine, and of course the zombies rip him out of it, the arm stays in there. In the interview, they asked him, like, why is that in the movie? Like, why would this biker do this? Why would you put that in the movie? And his answer was, because we could. And that's the spirit of the whole film.
Should you warn potential viewers of the 1978 Dawn of the Dead film, those who haven't seen it, that it may be more boringer than World War Z?
I haven't seen World War Z. I would say this movie is less boring than the Dawn of the Dead remake. There's more action and craziness and slick cinematography in the remake, but I think this is a far more interesting, engaging movie than that one.
It's one where you have to sit down and you have to watch it.
Yeah, I think knowing how the movie was made helps too. Like, I think it's a fine movie even if you don't kind of understand the style of filmmaking that they were doing at that time, that very loose sort of improvisational style. But I think it works as a movie without that. But I do think it benefits from knowing that too. When you think about the fact that it's just, we got the mall all to ourselves at night. The mall closes at 10 or whatever, and then we're here till 6 in the morning, and we're just running motorcycles through it and and trashing things.
It's a less polished Hollywood production, which tells you how to feel.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this character, this is happening to this character. Oh, you should be scared now. Oh, you should feel this now. You shouldn't like this character because they're selfish. And, this doesn't tell you how to feel. And that's one of the key points is, here it is.
Yeah.
Like these characters or don't like them.
And that gives it more character. That's what makes it a more interesting movie.
Yeah.
Both visually and the writing. It's just visually, it's just bright lights everywhere. And then, the writing, the characters are underwritten in a good way.
Yeah. I think any good character that's on screen is one you could, that's your general rule of your protagonist or your lead character, is that you need to be able to project yourself into them, into their situation. So a good movie, you become engaged in it when you feel like you're in the movie.
In rewatching Dawn of the Dead, Bub has always been my favorite zombie performance, but I think Flyboy at the end of Dawn of the Dead, his body language, the way he has his 1 foot, I don't even know how he did that. It looks broken.
I think it's when he fell, they pulled him back down and he fell.
But as an actor, the way he's able to keep it twisted over like that, and then he's just got the gun dangling off his finger. He's got the best body language and best performance maybe ever for a zombie. Bub, you feel more emotion for, of course, which is kind of where Romero was going throughout the series, where he doesn't even care about the humans anymore, and his sympathies start to go more towards the zombies. Maybe we should just give it to him.
Well, that was the twist on it.
Yeah.
You can't just make a third zombie survival movie where people hole up somewhere and,
Right.
That's why I like Day as well. Not quite. My heart's with Dawn of the Dead always, but Day of the Dead has, it's playing with ideas more.
Yeah.
The humans are the real bad guys. The zombies are just pure instinct and creatures. The humans are the ones that have the real evil.
Yeah.
The bickering, the bitterness, the hatred, the distrust, all those things that are in that movie. And the zombies are just sort of like the vehicle to tell the story of Joe Pilato yelling.
So I would recommend Dawn of the Dead if you can find it.
Yeah, there's a Blu-ray on Amazon. It's like $100.
Yeah.
You could probably find an old DVD, maybe.
Yeah, used copies. I don't know how much this set goes for anymore. This is, if you can find the Ultimate Edition, this has 3 cuts of the movie, tons of documentaries. It's great.
Yeah, I have the collector's edition here, which is, I think it's like 15 or 13 minutes longer than the theatrical release. This I'm
It's probably
assuming
the extended version?
Yeah, it's the original director's cut.
Okay, yeah. There's that, and then there's the European cut that Dario Argento supervised, which takes out all the humor and just makes it more of a straightforward kind of gore film.
They digitally removed the pies and they hit zombies with cannolis instead.
Oh, okay.
Italian jokes. And happy Halloween. I'm saying it to you.
Oh, happy Halloween.
Thank you, Jay. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.